Hello everyone, this week I've been trying Towers of Aghasba and I thought, you know what, I'm going to make the eggs a little video and let them know all about it. So what is Towers of Aghasba, or Towers are we calling it from now? Well, Towers is essentially a survival game with wood chopping and building like all the others, but there's some interesting twists going on. Let me explain. Essentially the world is corrupted or withered, and there's not much greenery and wildlife, and an ancient people left the land or were driven out long ago, and they've come back to the island and now they want to kind of help it flourish and move back in, basically. The basic loop seems to be that you arrive in a new region, you start a little village, and then you plant a colossal tree which then kind of terraforms the withered scrubland into, you know, a tropical or temperate forest. And then lots of animals will spawn and be drawn towards, that new greenery. Now, I've read that later in the game, depending on the region and depending on the biome that you put in that region, different animals will spawn. And so not everybody's playthrough is going to be the same. So you could visit somebody else's island and perhaps you'll see animals or creatures that you've never seen before. In the 30-minute dev video that's up on their YouTube channel, the lead developer, I think, or the lead creator, he mentions that the Nautical the Valley of the Wind, Princess Mononoke, they're heavy influences for the art style and the feel of the world. And then there's also lots of gameplay influences ranging from Minecraft to Shadow of the Colossus and to Animal Crossing. Specifically with Animal Crossing, I think this idea of going to other people's islands has come across. Because of the way that the biomes and regions thing can create a different experience on your game, visiting other people's islands might actually have a decent purpose. It could be that because of these different animals that spawn in specific biomes in specific regions, that maybe there are certain crafting materials that you can only get by trading with other players and going to their islands. With that Animal Crossing influence in mind, I really hope that the multiplayer isn't as shallow as Animal Crossing, where you literally just visit someone's island and have a look around. I'm hopeful though, because this is a big open world survival game with combat, and it's possible that, you know, to bring down these really big creatures, especially if there's some predatory, evilly ones, you might really need some extra player help to do that. It's just speculation from me though, because I've only played single player so far, so we'll have to wait and see. Now, there is a lot of wood chopping, but it's got a twist. There is a kind of Amity feature in the game, which is kind of your oneness with nature, I guess. If you do good things like feed animals, plant trees, heal injured animals, you get Amity. And if you do things like cut down trees or kill animals, then you get negative Amity. Amity can be used to upgrade trees and biomes and grow their influence so they cover more of the scrubland. It's also used to upgrade and unlock each of the fast travel portals. But you do need to kill animals at some point, and it does kind of mention this to you in your first kind of combat tutorial. So kind of don't be afraid of farming or, you know, killing an animal for a resource that you need. But the developers said they kind of wanted this feel that it's not just kill everything in sight. You know, you've just got to balance how much you kill, how much you harvest, how much you nurture. There are animals, however, that are kind of predatory, aggressive animals, and killing them doesn't reduce your Amity. There's also some kind of corrupted, withered creatures. They're like spiders, and they've got like these big hearts that are like pulsing, kind of rotting, growing root things. And once you kind of purge them, you get a big boon of Amity. So if you're trying to upgrade like a big colossal tree, I'd say go for one of those nests. There is building and crafting. So when you place down your villages, which you can place anywhere in the region, there's literally nowhere, obviously, unless it's like on a sideways bit of cliff where it physically can't be placed. But generally, you're very free to play your game the way you want to play it. You can place the village where you want. You can place the colossal tree where you want. And then all the individual parts of the village that make up that village, you build, and you can choose their placement as well. A lot of the individual village buildings are either culture points or they act as kind of resource transmogrifiers. So you can add a wood log into the lumber mill and get planks, stuff like that. There's ruins from the time before when your people lived there before they were driven away. And you can rebuild some of those buildings for kind of special buildings, if you like. So stables is one of them where you get your first mount. But essentially it is quite satisfying to upgrade the colossal tree and see the biome grow. And every time you go up a tier, you see like larger animals starting to appear in your kind of ecosystem. I will say that the combat feels a little bit shallow. Essentially it's just click, click, click to stab. There's a roll to dodge out the way and a bow and arrow. But, you know, I haven't spent that much time with the game, only 4 or 5 hours now, so perhaps there's more to the combat as you get into it. It's also early access, so we could certainly see, you know, advancements to your character coming in as later down the line. In terms of traversal, you can climb on basically anything in the world, and you've got a Breath of the Wild style stamina meter for when you're climbing. There are mounts as well as gliders. So traversing the world seems quite fun to me. You know, a little bit of climbing puzzles followed by some gliding, maybe call your mount, gallop across a big plain. And then there's also fast travel for if you really can't be bothered. But you do have to unlock the fast travel points using Amity and kind of repairing them. So I think that's kind of a mid to late game feature really. First of all, you know, you get to a region, you're going to spend some time exploring around. And there are secrets as well. I jumped off a cliff and I landed on like a stone column, and there was a treasure chest in it with a glider. Whereas you start in the game with kind of like not an umbrella, but a parachute, I guess. And you can't really control or move at much speed with it. Now, obviously, I've not gotten to these huge giant creatures that kind of fly around the map or march through giant fields and they're as tall as a dinosaur or something. But I have seen them in the gameplay trailers, and I do think that there's a lot more to be uncovered. So I'm really looking forward to growing my island, making my colossal tree as big as possible, and then also seeing what other people do and seeing like what are all the different combinations, how many creatures are there in total. And it scratches a lot of itches for me. My only big negative so far that I've played is when you're low health, there's a constant like beating heart sound, and if you don't have any food in your pocket, then that can just become annoying. So my advice to the devs would be, fine, have the little heartbeat when you first get into low health, but then maybe allow the health to just regen for the first segment of your health bar, and once it hits there, you no longer have that heartbeat sound, because it's just very irritating. Other than that, I think my only other real criticism is that the combat feels a little bit shallow. But perhaps with the Shadow of the Colossus influences, maybe we're going to have kind of weak points on the big enemies, or perhaps we'll learn more combat moves as we kind of develop our character. And if not, I hope they can add that through early access, because I think it's a little bit weak. Oh, and you can't pet your mount. What the hell is that about? So that's pretty much all from me right now. Thank you very much to Dreamlit Games for letting me play the game before early access. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and maybe it's your thing too. I'm going to be streaming this pretty much as soon as I can. So I'll see you on Twitch, or maybe on one of the YouTube streams. So take care of yourselves, and Shimu Shima!